neither of them are not planning to vote. Trump, Biden, neither are not planning to vote. Who's supporting Trump? Raise your hands. One of you, only one of you. Who's supporting Biden as of now? One, two, three of you. And Jennifer, we're not the Queen of England. We're not going to be waving our hands like that. You got to choose. You can't vote for multiple people. You can vote for no one. So we got
Trump.
Trump. Okay, so we got 2 Trumps. We got 3 Bidens, and who's still undecided?
We have 4 Bidens.
4 Bidens. 2 Trump, 4 Bidens, undecided. Raise your hands again. Okay, you just saw 90 minutes. How can you still be undecided? Please explain that to me.
Well, can I go
It was a
first?
disaster.
Go ahead. Kimberly, go ahead.
Well, I'm still undecided because they really didn't answer the questions that I was looking for. I really wanted to hear more in depth about race relations and the civil unrest. I also wanted to talk about, I wanted them to talk about how they were going to help the American public when it comes to COVID-19. Now, we've already had the first stimulus, but nobody really talked about, how they're actually going to help the American public. They're still talking about corporations. They're still talking about the vaccine, but they're not talking about putting dollars in the pockets of the American people. So I'm still undecided.
Somebody else, why are you still undecided after 90 minutes of this debate? Somebody else, jump in. Mike.
I kind of went into this expecting to see whether or not Biden had the capacity to remain strong for the entire 90 minutes. And I think I would characterize him as having won the debate because there was no significant gaffe, there was no significant mistake that he made. But I still am not entirely convinced. I almost feel like I need to see another debate now just to confirm what I saw tonight in terms of Biden's ability to stand up to Trump.
So he did better than. Okay, Jerry, but hold on, Jerry, hold on 1 second. Joe, did he do better than you expected or worse than you expected?
You're talking about Biden?
Yes.
Yeah, I was surprised that he did as well as he did. I think some part of the narrative that Trump has spun so far that Biden may not be up to this task, it certainly did plant a seed of doubt in my mind. So I feel like the performance was strong, but perhaps just not strong enough for me to make a decision.
Well, maybe you're they just can't win you over. I mean, come on, 90 minutes. This was so dramatic here. And by the way, guys, I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be like the candidate, but I'm going to challenge you. Jerry, go ahead. You're from Nevada. You're one of the most amazing states. Ruthie, you'll go next. Jerry, you're up.
Well, I think we got everything that we didn't learn anything new. We learned that they play loose with numbers, they attack one another, and avoid the issues when they can. Particularly when Biden was asked about would he pack the Supreme Court if the Democrats took control, and he never got an answer to that question. That's a very important question, and so many questions by both individuals are avoided, and it's just more about attacking one another and talking about issues that they want to bring forth. They wouldn't go along with the moderator too often.
Okay, Ruthie, you're next, and after Ruthie, we're going to go to Jennifer. Are you still undecided, Ruthie? And Nick, you'll come after that.
Well, I was, but I think that after tonight's performance, I've decided for Biden.
Tell me why.
First of all, I don't think it's important if someone can stand up to Trump or not. That's just irrelevant. That's like me thinking it's relevant that I can win an argument with like a crackhead. It just doesn't matter, and
That's the line. By the way, that's the line for the evening. You winning a fight with a crackhead.
And I mean anytime that Biden tried to answer and give his views on anything, Trump just was babbling and ranting and yapping like somebody tweaked on massive amounts of cocaine. He made the debate impossible.
Jennifer.
It was just his usual childish deflection tactics, and basically a person acts like that because they have nothing. And I think the last 4 years have been a clear factual indication that this guy's just incompetent.
Okay, but I
Yeah,
don't
he needs to
necessarily
go back
think
to
that
the
you're an
tower.
undecided voter by what you just said. I don't know if you're, it was really important. You really were undecided when you walked in here, correct? Or not
I
correct?
was, but after seeing that yapping, babbling, you know, I felt like I was in the nightclub in the
That's
a
kind of
nightclub
Trump,
in the
though.
80s.
We gotta
And,
go
you know,
on. Ruthie,
want to
Ruthie,
go
we gotta go on.
Danaville.
I've got 5, 10, 17 people here. I gotta get everyone into this. I only got an hour. Jennifer, you
Yes,
are on this side. You think Trump won. Wasn't he,
I,
weren't you embarrassed by what he did?
yes, somewhat. I raised my hand for Trump, and I'm honestly still undecided. I'm torn. I disagree with his babbling, as well put. The gentleman before, I think Ruthie, what he was saying, I kind of agree with what his comments about the babbling back and forth and the numbers, not being straight with the numbers, and overlooking the actual questions and moving on to their own, what they wanted to say. And I raised my hand for Trump, and now even thinking farther, I kind of, I want to know if I can change that. Can I tell you different? I'm kind of thinking that Biden just seemed to show more composure, if you will. Not that it just, I'm so torn. I can't wait for the next debate.
Okay, Travis, did you make your mind tonight? Or are you still undecided?
I'm still undecided between Trump or Biden or a third party, because I honestly, going into this, Donald Trump is a known quantity. Like, I know Donald Trump after the past 4 years. I know what he's going to say. I know what he's going to do. I know what his policies are going to be, so on and so forth. Biden, he didn't convince me of anything. He didn't really talk policy. The few times that he tried to land a jab on Trump, he whiffed on it, in my opinion. And it's just like hard to decide on, go with the known quantity of Trump or the unknown of, I don't actually know what this guy's policies are, because like what Jerry brought up, will you say that you're not going to pack the Supreme Court? Well, he couldn't answer. He's like, well, my policy is I don't have a policy.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important question. And if he doesn't have an answer to it, how am I going to put him in charge for 4 years?
Okay, so I need to know, is there, those people who made up their minds, please explain to me why you went from undecided to the candidate you chose. I know there's still, I think, 3 of you left. Please go ahead. Tell me why you went from undecided to the candidate you chose. Come on, guys.
I'll go. Luke from Wisconsin here. Trump is annoying. He's unpresidential, at least in our definition, historically of what presidential is. And he's annoying, and it's like nails on a chalkboard. But him acting that way doesn't necessarily impact my bottom line. What I care about is the economy, and I care about law and order. Being here in Wisconsin, having to deal with Kenosha and Madison, and being afraid, for my communities, and seeing what happened. I've seen videos of when the federal agents were finally sent into Kenosha, and there was Antifa filling up gas cans, and they swarmed in unmarked cars and made me feel safe. I mean, that's what impacts me. And I liked his answer on law and order.
Okay.
May I jump in? Because
Yes.
I came in leaning Biden, but undecided because I grew up Republican. But I'm gonna vote Biden. And the reason why it's interesting, Luke was talking about some issues that I actually, I also find important too, but I just maybe see it as a different conclusion on who's more able to deal with them. On law and order, I don't think Trump defended his record very well on it. I think that it's not just the words he speaks, acting the way he does at a debate. It's that he really inflames a lot of anger in this country. And when you're president, you have a bigger responsibility than being just some administrative executive. And I think he has grossly failed at that. On COVID-19, in this debate, he couldn't defend his record on slow walking his administration's response. And my biggest concern about Biden going in and just throughout the whole primary was, the radical left, so to speak, taking over the party. Because that's something, if Bernie Sanders was the nominee, I would really, really have a hard choice. And I felt like the Democratic Party had an opportunity to go to the hard left. They had a perfectly good candidate who defended that way of viewing things in politics, and he lost. And so that, to me, Biden being the center left and Trump being unhinged and frankly a poor leader is what has directed my decision. But that doesn't mean I don't respect the way that Luke might interpret it, because that's the beauty of American democracy.
Jeremy, you're up. By the way, I don't know if you guys can see, but that's Jonathan Karl of ABC News.
Mashed up.
Yes, White House correspondent for ABC News.
For me, the biggest thing was we've seen for the last 4 years what Trump is all about. Luke said it, Joe said it. We know that he's all about exaggerating everything, whether it's 200,000 deaths because it's from China or it's Joe Biden doing that or the other. What was frustrating for me and why I'm still undecided is the Democrats keep telling me why I shouldn't vote for Trump because he's Trump. The Republicans are telling me I shouldn't vote for Joe because of this, that, or the other. They're giving me reasons. Joe continuously and the Democrats are not showing me a good purpose or a good reason as to why I shouldn't vote for Trump. The one time that he stood up tonight and said, I am the Democratic Party. I am the one that is going to be deciding our platform. I am the one that approved it. Kind of stood his way out and tried to, it was his way of negating Trump's argument that he is going to go all the way to the left, that he is going to be the furthest progressive candidate we've had in forever, and that he's going to be the next AOC, because frankly, that's what for me, that's what I don't want. I do not want an next AOC, but I also don't want someone all the way to the right either. And so what I want to see in the next two debates is why should Joe be elected, not why I shouldn't vote for Trump.
Correct.
Trump's not presidential. We've gotten that. We've moved on 4 years. We have to move on.
I see Kimberly, you're reacting. I see several people's nodding their heads.
Correct.
How many of you agree with what Jeremy said?
But can I say, when Jeremy, you said that about him saying, I am the Democratic Party, that was a strong lead. But then when he was challenged about the riots and Portland and was asked, you're the Democratic Party, have you reached out to him? And he's like, well, I'm not an elected official. I thought that was a really poor answer from a former vice president, a lifelong Democrat with incredible influence. He said he was the Democratic Party, but it's like, how can you not? That shocked me, because I'm like, how can you not? I mean, it's one thing to say violence is wrong, because it is, but then to say, well, I can't really influence it. I am the Democratic Party, but I can't influence it.
So here's what I'd like to do. I want you to give me a word or phrase to describe the performance of both candidates. I'm going to call on you and then respond. Word or phrase. Do not give me an explanation. Just one word or phrase. Let's start with Donald Trump. Michelle, word or phrase to describe Donald Trump tonight.
Horrid.
Sorry.
Sarah.
Chaotic.
Rob.
Unpolished.
Ruthie.
Crackhead.
Katie. I don't know how to spell that. Kimberly.
Puzzling.
Jeremy.
Un-American.
Say that again.
Un-American.
Mike.
Unhinged.
Nick.
An ass, but a confident ass.
Hey, Joe.
That was classic Trump.
Oh,
Say
sorry.
again. Joe, say again.
Classic Trump.
Luke.
Forceful.
Joe from Arizona.
Unhinged.
Jerry.
Bully.
Jennifer.
Arrogant.
Cheryl.
That was my word, arrogant. Same
And
thing.
Travis.
Typical.
Okay, that doesn't sound too good. You guys really didn't. So if you're advising Donald Trump in his debate performance, what would you be telling him to do right now? Let me get three of you, and then we're going to do Joe Biden, the same thing, a word or phrase. Three people, tell me why or how Donald Trump can improve his performance in the next debate.
He needs to stop talking over people. It's very rude, and it just gives a bad impression.
I think that Trump needs to run on his record. He doesn't have the worst record. I mean, he's got, the foreign policy is good. The economy is good. I mean, it's not bad.
You know what?
Nick,
I think
Nick,
Trump.
hold on, Nick, jump in.
Just give me a reason to vote for you. He said so many things and acted in a way that makes it so hard for you to be able to tell anyone that you're voting for him. And some of the policies are good. You just pointed out a couple things that I agree with him on, but it makes it so hard when he can't even answer the white supremacist question with a simple yes or no.
Okay, now Kimberly, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Trump needs to learn how to become coachable. And I think that when he comes to the table, he has to have some substance. He needs to have some facts and stay off the personality, and definitely stay away from the name calling, because when him and Joe got down to name calling, that really turned a lot of people off. So stick to the substance, know your facts, and when you're going to throw a punch, make sure you throw a good punch that's a knockout, that you know exactly what you're talking about.
It sounds like a boxing match, and I would hope that it would be a presidential contest when they're not trying to knock people out. Now, I want to tell the reporters to go into the chat room, and Susan Crabtree, I'm going to ask your question in a moment, but reporters, go into the chat room and write down your questions, but I promised you I'd get them asked. Now's your chance to do it. Okay, we're going to start with Rob. I want a word or phrase to describe Joe Biden tonight.
A surprise, actually, compared to what the media kind of put him up to be. So I was surprised at how well he did. I was expecting a little less out of his answer. So he did a good job.
Travis, word or phrase to describe Joe Biden tonight.
Better than expected.
Better than expected. Cheryl, word or phrase.
I would say that he was definitely more professional than Trump. And I think he's more a people person. I really do.
Jennifer.
Confident.
Jerry.
Politician.
Joe from North Carolina.
He showed restraint and compassion.
Luke from Wisconsin.
I have to agree 100% with the politician.
Which one?
Politician.
Joe from Arizona.
Predictable.
Nick.
Nice guy, but lacking vision.
Mike.
Coherent.
Jeremy, sorry.
I just think leader.
Kimberly.
Attentive and rehearsed.
Katie.
And
I can't hear you.
somewhat evasive. I don't think he answered every question as asked.
Ruthie.
Humanity and integrity.
Sarah. By the way, Ruthie, you don't sound like an undecided voter. You really don't. You call Trump.
But after tonight.
How many of you guys, am I being too harsh on her? And Sarah, I'll go to you 1 second. Am I being too harsh when Ruthie says Trump's a crackhead and Biden shows humanity and compassion? Should I be challenging her, whether she's really undecided or not? Am I going too far?
Sure, challenge. Yeah, challenge. Challenge everybody.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
I could take a punch.
Okay, well, I'm not going to punch you both now. Sarah, what a phrase to describe Biden. Sarah, what a phrase to describe Biden.
Oh, I'm sorry. Predictable.
And Michelle.
Presidential.
Okay. What advice do you give Joe Biden for the next debate? Anybody?
I think
He
he has
uses the microphone like he does when he looks at the camera. That's a powerful message when he looks at the camera and talks.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that 100%.
He needs to further ignore Trump. Trump's going to do everything
Yeah.
he can to throw him off his message. Just don't let him.
Try not to let him get under your skin, and like kind of stop with the snide comments, because it's not a good look for him with the telling the president of the United States to shut up.
I mean, I disagree
It's not.
respectfully with Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have called him a racist.
I'm coming
either.
at it from
that wasn't cool.
Truth be told, I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different angle. But if I remember correctly, when Donald Trump kind of went really tough on Hillary, saying you should be in jail and whatnot, it really egged up a lot of people who were hated Hillary Clinton and were angry, and it got them to just get past their differences with Trump and vote for him. I mean, I don't like the incivility, but I do get it. Biden is trying to get the people who just hate Donald Trump and they don't necessarily love Biden. He's trying to get them to be like, yes, get him, Uncle Joe. And so I get that strategy. And if I was advising him, I would actually tell him to keep doing it. And I feel really bad saying that.
But you know what's wrong with that strategy? What's wrong with that strategy is that you're turning off a lot of people to the point where a lot of people don't want to vote. So you got to understand, no vote is a vote for Mr. Trump. So we got to be smarter than that. People got to be smarter. My advice to Biden would be this: stay focused and stay away from doing the things that Trump does. So the behavior cannot be the same, because anytime you see two people who are constantly calling each other out their names, a lot of people are going to get turned off. So if they was going to vote for him, maybe tonight they said, you know what? I don't want either one of them. And now you find yourself under the rock. So you got to be very careful about your behavior, especially if you want to be president of the United States.
Yeah,
I think the bar has been set so low that after tonight, I'm just happy to have a president that doesn't appear to be high.
Yeah, is that a good thing though?
Well, I'm
Or is
saying
this
that's how low the bar has become.
But is that
Just
a good
having
thing?
someone that doesn't appear to be on drugs is like a step up.
Okay, I'm really, really concerned about that. You clearly have, I don't know if you know a crackhead, but you've got this thing about Trump that is, I really want us to be more civil. I don't want us to behave like we just saw for the last hour and a half. And yes, I am biased in that. Mike,
Listen, Frank, I'm really sorry, but my impression tonight was that the battling, the ranting, the yapping, I mean, it appeared to be.
Not really.
It did
Right,
to
but you
me.
only care that Trump is doing it. You don't care that Biden was doing it too. Because they both were. No. Hold on. They were both.
They both were.
They were both bickering at each other like two old men in a nursing home arguing over the last pudding cup. And if you're going on that Trump was acting that way, so was Biden, not to the same extent, but he was, and you have to acknowledge that.
Well, no,
Absolutely.
actually, that's
Okay,
your
you're
opinion,
not gonna do
Travis.
this. Stop.
Biden
Ruthie,
didn't appear
stop.
to be high.
Ruthie, stop. Ruthie, stop.
Okay.
We've got Tim Alberta. Tim, I want to recognize you. And I think my office is a way to bring you in. Unmute yourself, and you're going to get a chance to ask your question directly. Can we see your camera? Is there any way to do that?
Yeah. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. But we'd like to see you.
Yeah. I don't see a way to.
Oh, and we lost him.
Now we just lost him. Okay. Tim asked the question. We would like to have seen you, but go ahead. Tim, go ahead. Okay, we lost him again. Let's stay with the any more advice for Joe Biden?
Keep the answer short.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so Frank, my advice is the same for both of them. I mean, that was one of the most, I've watched presidential debates for 40 years, and that was one of the most frustrating things I've ever experienced. We weren't giving it. I kept notes, and there might have been like 2 or 3 answers to questions the whole 90 minutes. And at one point it says, not true, is true, not true, is true, that all the interrupting, all the bickering. My advice to either one of us, just act presidential. If either one would, they'd win.
Right.
Okay, Tim, I'm going to give you a shot now. What do you want to know? By the way, Tim Alberta is one of the finest reporters, and he's of the next generation. So Tim, go ahead.
Thanks, Frank. Hey guys. Sorry, I'm not dressed up. I didn't realize I'd be on camera. I'm just curious. I'm curious if you all can tell me in the closing segment there, when Chris Wallace was asking about the integrity of the election, did the president's comments about mail voting diminish your confidence in the legitimacy of the election? Do you believe that the election will be fair and above board, and that the absentee balloting is legitimate?
I'm
I
hearing
don't know. Were the votes in the trash cans? Is that a real story or is it not? It's hard to tell what's the facts
No,
there.
I think that was definitely a real story.
Okay, because that if that's happening at all, I mean, this whole thing needs to stop, right? Votes need to count once and only once, and they need to count. If it's been in the trash can, yeah, has that been happening? Yeah, but it needs to stop. And we
Okay,
just
but
did, it was hard to get the answer if it was true or not.
Yeah,
That's what was more frustrating.
Okay.
And then they want us to do the mail-in. I don't believe in that. I think it's bogus, and I think that things are going to get lost along the way. With the mail system alone, much less what else might be going on. That I don't trust it.
Half truths in the government are nasty, and the media needs to hold the government to correcting those half truths, plain and simple.
We're going Joe from Arizona and then Travis from Arizona. And then I'm going to take Bob Woodward if he wants to jump on. Joe, go ahead.
On the 9 ballots in the trash, if I'm mistaken, I believe that was done out of a policy that the current DOJ had instituted, and it actually violated policy for the DOJ to then announce whose names were on the ballots, or the candidate being voted for. So just to answer your question about did this concern me, or does it make me think that to answer Mr. Alberta's question, when Donald Trump starts, and I'm trying to say this.
Joe, you got to do this quickly.
Okay, when Donald Trump starts ranting about things about the election, it's hard to follow, and it's hard to know what's real and what isn't, because he lies so often about that. And so there might be legitimate issues, but he is one of the worst messengers of that particular topic.
Travis, your answer to Tim's question.
So I'm not so much worried about what Trump says about it, because everything he says is hyperbole. I'm worried about what gets reported on. 9 ballots is not such a big deal, but if you see the story about 9 ballots enough times, then it becomes a big deal. Today, people don't really read the whole story. They read the headline, maybe the first couple of paragraphs. So they get it in their head, oh, ballots are being thrown away, and that's it. And then they move on. But that sticks with them. I know when I was serving overseas, I would vote, and then you find out that the overseas ballots don't get counted for 2 weeks later. Oh, okay, well then I guess my vote doesn't count. But that's only part of the story. The rest of the story is it still gets counted. It just doesn't go into that final or that initial tally that you see. So I think it really comes down to people's individual's perception from reading bits of news.
Jeremy, do you trust the system or not?
I do. Here in Arizona, our ballots are automatically mailed to us. They're sent to us on the first day that they're able to. So here, I think that's next week here for us in Arizona. When we turn them back in, we can go to a website and see it's been counted. It got mailed back. It's been received, and it's been counted. We know instantly that it's been done. I know multiple states are doing the same thing this year. Arizona's a red state, no matter when they want to call it a toss-up or not for the presidential. It's a red state overall, and we don't have issues with our mail-in vote. So why are we not expressing that sentiment elsewhere? Why don't we tell the good stories of how it actually works for everywhere?
One more, Katie.
We have the opposite thing happening in Iowa. We've always had absentee ballots, and they were kind of along what Trump was talking about, how you have to solicit them, you have to ask for them, and they'll send them to you. This year, we've had an influx of third-party vendors and the Democratic Party in Iowa sending naked absentee ballots. Like, here you go, here you can send these in. And we have 3 voters in our house, and I would say that we have received somewhere along the lines of 30 pieces of mail, absentee ballots. And then there's another caveat, and there's—
Hold on. How many absentee ballots have you received?
We've received the absentee ballot that you'd have to send back in. So
you're receiving the application.
We're receiving the application, but I'm just saying
that a bunch of applications. Right. I agree from Iowa. I feel like 6 or 10 at least.
Yeah.
Mine just go into the recycle
Trash.
bin, quite honestly. Yeah.
And the other thing is that some of them are filled out, and our state secretary said they couldn't be filled out. And some of the initial ones that were filled out got mailed in. And then there was a ruling that said you can't do that. So there were some 50,000 ballots that are going to get thrown out because they were pre-filled.
Okay, Tim, I want to go to, I don't know if Bob Woodward wants to ask a question or not. We've also got Laura Barron Lopez.
I tried.
Oh, Bob, you're on.
Yes. Okay. My question, if you would ask everyone, the presidency isn't a job you can do alone. Which either Biden or Trump will have the strongest and best cabinet and staff?
Biden.
Biden.
Okay,
Hands
why
down.
Joe Biden? Tell us why.
He's got 47 years of experience, whether we like it or not, whether it fits the drain the swamp narrative. He's got 47 years of people to rely on both sides of the aisle. We've seen it for that amount of time. Whether we agree with his policies, he has the ability to bring in a wide variety of people that can help him. Whereas Trump picked Rex Tillerson from a private company and let him go a few months later. His cabinet's revolving in the first 3 years. I don't think we're going to see that with a Biden presidency.
I second that. You know, I think Biden will be able to have disagreements with people in his cabinet, and he won't go from saying, I have the best secretary of whatever and no one's better than him, to that person is a traitor and a loser and I never liked him. I don't think you're going to see that type of that type of leadership or lack thereof.
I think that's the exact reason I have a concern is I don't want 47 years of government. I want something different, you know, a different angle, a different way. So we're not running deficits, a different way of looking at things.
Somebody else.
We're not running deficits.
I think this is something that Biden could, his best answer all night was when he started talking about the unity and people working together. It was an answer about racism. If he tell us who that cabinet was going to be, you know, or give us some sense and have it be bipartisan and it is going to be a unity government rather than these kind of fears that it's going to be left, just tell us who it's going to be. That would help. That would go a long way.
That's true.
Go ahead.
Us versus them is just
Kimberly,
cutting the country in half.
Hold on. Kimberly, go ahead, and then Rob.
Yeah, I believe Biden has that likability factor, and he's not going to rule by a bully pen. So people are more susceptible to come to him with issues and concerns. So when you look at it from that position, it's like, who's more approachable? Who's going to have an open ear to talk about race relations without becoming offensive about it? So because we're at the period of civil unrest, we need someone with an open ear to hear and to listen and to learn. So I have to give Biden that particular trophy on that particular issue right now.
Does anybody here think that Trump would surround himself with better people than Joe Biden in his second term? One.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go
I
out
would
on a
say
limb
he.
here.
Yeah, I would say he'd probably do a pretty decent job there. I mean, yes, he turns over people a lot, but you know that going into that position.
I'm going out on a limb here because I don't know who would be helping Biden pick his cabinet, and foreign policy stuff is super important to me because of my time in the Army. So when Trump said he wanted James Mattis as Secretary of Defense, like I started jumping up and down because it's somebody that got us. And I like Mark Esper as Secretary of Defense. I don't really care for Bill Barr or I like Mike Pompeo at State, but who's going to be helping Biden pick these cabinet positions? Because, you know, Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense and the Treasury, those are all super important. And until he comes out and goes, you know, I have a short list here and I don't know, General McRaven is my pick to be SecDef, you know, then I can't say one way or the other who's going to have the best cabinet because I don't know who's picking Biden's cabinet.
Right. That's how I feel. I'm undecided. I mean, I don't really know enough at this point. So.
Okay. Bob, follow up, or should I go on?
No, but I think that's the big question. And should both Trump and Biden provide more information? Trump has provided lists of possible Supreme Court nominees, and now he's picked one. But the cabinet, Frank, as you know, and the White House staff is so critical to the smooth functioning of a presidency.
Doing it before the election could definitely help, sir. Most definitely.
I would like to know Biden's cabinet, because is it going to be, as a politician, is it going to be payback to the people that supported him? Is AOC going to be the Secretary of Energy? I would like to know who those people are.
Okay, Bob, thank you. you very much. We're going to go on for another maybe 15 minutes. Please hang in there, and hopefully we'll hit some other stuff. I want to go to Susan Crabtree. Susan, other than the comments that were made about Trump's drug habits, what would you like to know from them? And show yourself if you can.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to be on video right now. Thank you very much, though. I'm glad that you all are, though, and are participating. But I'm wondering, some of you seem like you are leaning one way or the other. It seems like you came into this that way. What can you tell me that makes me realize some of you, I believe, are truly independent and are swinging and are looking for some direction, but a few of you I feel like are not. What was the qualifications, or how did you screen these candidates for the focus group? I'm curious about that.
Well,
And I'll think
more-
of a better question.
No, I'm not. This is about them. This is not me. You got to think of a better question right now.
Okay, well, that was what's on my mind as I'm watching this. That's what
Okay,
seems to
she's
be the
calling you
most
guys.
pressing part of it.
Mike, or Jeremy, Kimberly, Katie, Nick, Joe, Luke, Joe, Jennifer, Travis, Cheryl, Jerry, Rob. She's saying that you lied to me, that you're not really.
No, I'm saying some of you did.
Oh,
Okay.
I am definitely undecided. I have no clue who I'm going to vote to. I was against Trump for the past 3.5 years. And all of a sudden, my daughter and I were talking about some things, and I started to swing towards Trump. And now, hearing Biden, I am totally at a loss. I don't know who's going to get my vote. I want to see another debate.
Yeah, when my 11-year-old said this show is embarrassing, turn the channel, I said we need to get 2 other parties on that stage just to get rid of the bitterness that was on the stage. That was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
I personally it's a dartboard for me right now. Who's going to win it? I don't know.
It would almost be easier to do on paper. Like, say, what are your positions? Have them write it out, and almost like blind, because I think that their personalities and the history, it's just overwhelming.
But you
The
need to
people
see
who are talking are the people I actually think are swing voters. But here's a better question. What do you wanted to hear from the candidates about how to end the racial unrest in this country? What could the moderator have done better, Chris Wallace? And what questions would you like to ask the candidates?
I'd like to hear about any programs they might implement. I guess Biden, because Trump, hasn't done a whole lot, or what he plans to do. Just for ways at odds.
Let me say this. When I first got on, that was my concern with both parties. That's why I'm very undecided right now. For number one, let me say this to you. With the pandemic that is going on, they both should have been more detailed about the circumstances and the situations of the American people. Nobody talked about the second stimulus packet, and that bothers me. It bothers me because you still have millions of Americans out there who can't even feed their families because they lost their job at no fault of their own. Not one of them addressed it. So I am not going to make a decision about neither one of them right now. Number two, being a Black woman, that I am, okay, being a Black woman, they did not say how they were going to improve race relations with Black people, because from my experience, this is the reason why I'm an independent voter. The Republicans, they don't really care for Black people, and the Democrats have always used Black people. And neither one of them told me today, as a Black woman who's very active in my Black community, about how they would actually come and talk with us about what we want to see happen and how things would actually get better under their administration, their leadership. So until I hear that, I may say, you know what, I don't want neither one of them, because at the end of the day, it won't even be up to me. Because if they get elected, either one of them, it may be the same old, and it really doesn't matter who's sitting at that table. Because if you don't have a diverse table who understand the streets and the struggles of the community of which Black people live and everything we've gone through for 400 years, you're not going to get our vote anyway, because we're tired and we're sick. So understand that. So when I say undecided, yes, I'm undecided. And for my community, it's a lot of us who are undecided because it's darn if we do and darn if we don't. What do we get? We don't get anything from the system. So yes, I'm undecided, and I'm going to be undecided until they deal with African Americans, Black people, whatever you want to call us, about the issues that are affecting us. And I could even go as far as we talk about equal pay, the disparities as we go through, health disparities, job disparities, discriminations. You don't walk in these shoes. I walk in these shoes every day. And Obama, yes, he was great, but guess what? We only had one. We only had one. And because I got a choice between Trump and Biden, I need somebody to tell me and have a plan that shows me in my community how they're going to deal with this Black agenda to help us start moving forward. We're not asking for a handout. We're asking for an equal playing field. So when you show me that, I'll make a decision.
Sarah.
I would like to add to that what I found a total deflection in the entire debate was the issues aren't riots or sending in federal police in cities or any of these things. The issue is, how do you keep these riots from happening? People only riot when they've been pushed too hard, when they've had enough, when there's a reason to riot. The issue that needs to get fixed is the uneven playing field, like Kimberly said. The racism. These riots wouldn't have been happened. None of this would have happened if people of color hadn't been so mistreated all these years. And it's 2020, and it's still happening.
Is there a question you would ask the participants, the presidential candidates?
I'm on the street, and I know exactly what Kimberly's talking about, and I can say that as a white person.
Okay, Susan, re-ask that question. Susan, re-ask that question.
Good, thank you. Appreciate it.
Susan, re-ask that question.
Ask it. Sorry, I thought you said we asked it.
No, I'm saying re-ask it.
Oh,
because
thank you, Frank. I'm just asking what you would ask the presidential candidates what would their solutions be? What question would you pose to the candidates about how to unify the country and resolve the racial unrest?
I would ask Donald Trump.
Hold on. That is a wonderful question, but I'd rather you do it broadly rather than just racially. And I actually need to know the answer to that question. What would be the question that you would ask the candidates to reunify the country? And I'm going to ask each one of you to give me an answer. You can pass. Michelle, what would be the question you would ask that would help you understand how they would reunify the country?
I would ask both of them, well, as I said earlier, what their plan is to unite us, not to divide us, to be open to everybody's point of view and who they're going to hire for their cabinet. If Trump's going to hire new people, who Biden's going to have, and see if it's a diverse group, because it should be. America's diverse, so we need diversity for sure.
Joe from North Carolina, what would be your question to the candidates that you want the moderator to ask that would give you the answer you're looking for reunifying the country?
I think it would have been beneficial to ask them from their own personal experience, from their own background, the things in their own lives. What have they found best exemplifies the divisions we face, and what have they had as an experience in unifying people around a common purpose of bringing people back together from their own heart, from their own life? What are the best examples they have of how they might apply what they learned in those situations to that role as president of the United States?
Okay, let me get two more volunteers. And it doesn't have to be a question. What do you want them to tell you that you'll know that they are genuinely committed to reunifying the population? Joe from Arizona.
I would try and frame the question that could be applied to both of them, and I would say you've both presided over some very divisive eras in our country. What about the eras you were in charge? What about those times would you have done differently? So Donald Trump, what would you have done differently in the past 4 years? Joe Biden, what would you have done differently when you were vice president to quell the division in our country?
Hey, Susan, I love that. I think that's a great idea. One more answer. Jerry from Nevada.
Yeah, I would say what they need to do is decide if they would work with the winner of the election, if the loser would work with the winner of the election, and make an effort for them to come together and show the world, or show the rest of the country that there can be civility in politics, even though it doesn't appear to be.
This is a great question line. Susan, I'm going to go on. I thank you very much for jumping on and asking. Don't leave us because we got 10 more minutes of this. Guys, I'd like you to give me a word or phrase to describe. And by the way, we're going to go to Laura next. So Laura, get ready to ask your question. But Michelle, I'm going to start with you. Give me a word or phrase to describe Mike Wallace and how he handled tonight's debate. Word or phrase.
He's not alive. Sorry.
We're going to go in order. Michelle.
Professional.
Sarah.
Definitely professional.
Ruthie. Ruthie.
Oh, I think he lost control.
Katie, word or phrase to describe Mike Wallace, Chris Wallace tonight.
There you go.
Close. He had his hands full. He had his hands full tonight.
Yeah.
Kimberly.
Fragile.
Jeremy.
Flustered.
That's my word.
Jeremy, I didn't hear what you said.
Flustered.
Mike.
In my notes, I wrote down he lost the debate, but he was really in an impossible situation.
Nick.
Chaotic.
Joe from Arizona.
Doing the best he can.
Luke.
Courageous.
Joe from North Carolina, word or phrase to describe Mike Wallace tonight.
Yeah, he's definitely handed some lemons, but I think he came out with a semi-sweet lemonade.
You good? Jerry from Nevada.
I think he's better than most.
Gerald.
I think he was professional.
Travis.
He tried hard.
Jennifer.
Since both my words were said, I'm going to say professionally flustered.
That's pretty good. And Rob.
Professional cat wrangler. Oh my God, that was a tough crowd he had to deal with.
It was not pleasant for him. Okay, Laura, what is your question for our group?
Great. Thank you, Frank, and thank you, all of you guys. It's great to talk to you. So two quick questions if I can get them in. But the first is a lot of you guys talked about unity and wanting to see the candidates unify different people within the country. So I'm curious, do the Republican endorsements of Biden influence you at all? Has the endorsement from Cindy McCain impacted where you're leaning at all, or no?
No,
no,
not
Not for me. No.
No, nobody.
That's one vote.
I'm from Arizona. I've never cared what you thought.
And I think the opposite. I respect McCain's here in Arizona. I respected what he did in 2008. It was the first election I was able to vote for. So I tended to focus and follow what he said, and just the civility that a lot of the Republicans for Biden bring, the whole Lincoln Project, the certain people endorsing them. It's very interesting and very telling.
So was that one vote for yes, it influences you, or two, and everyone else was no?
I'm a yes, Laura. I mean,
Okay.
yes. It makes me listen.
Two yes.
Jennifer's a no.
I think everyone else is a no. Thank you. And then quickly, my second question was, I think one of you mentioned it, but I'm curious what the rest think. Trump not condemning white supremacy or white supremacists, did that impact any of you? Did it stand out to any of you? I guess if we could do like a show of hands.
That was definitely his worst moment out of the night of bad moments.
Why was that his
4
worst?
or 5? Yeah, why the worst?
I mean, that's the easiest thing that he could do. It would be a home run. People would actually write about it, like, "Oh my God, Trump condemned white supremacists," and he'd get a bounce from it. Like literally, the easiest thing that he could accomplish, and it would grab people's attention. And he's still gonna do it right. He did it a little bit. He's like, "Yeah, sure, of course." Yeah, of course. But he never came out and actually said, I condone white supremacists and right-wing militias and all that. Like, yeah, of course I do.
Nick, you were smiling as Travis gave that answer. Tell me why.
Well, I don't think the media would have wrote about it, if we're honest. But yeah, that was his worst moment in my opinion too. I don't know why he misses these layups. He seems so headstrong on these things, even though I don't really think he's like some big racist, but I guess I don't know. But why is what I just kept saying after he didn't answer that question.
I think he's
Katie,
afraid
I
of
want you
publicly
to nod
losing
your
their
head no.
support.
Why did you feel you also had a physical reaction, which is what I look for. Why do you think Trump didn't take that easy opportunity to condemn? Why do you think he just let it go?
Who knows?
Katie.
I think he just got in his own way. It came after, I think, hadn't Chris challenged Joe Biden about Black Lives Matter or Antifa, one of the two, and Joe kind of waffled. It was on Antifa because Joe was saying that they don't exist. And I think that he was just kind of being pigheaded that if Joe wasn't going to give an answer, he wasn't going to give an answer. When, like Travis said, it's kind of an easy layup. It's, you know, kind of like, do you like Santa Claus? Well, yes. You know, don't you like, you know, you don't like white supremacists? Yes, or bad. And it was an easy layup. And I think he just was like, you're not going to tell me what to do, which isn't always good in a leader. So
I think it's an easy layup for a lot of people, but
yeah.
But for Donald Trump, he will not denounce anyone that supports him. And that's
Right.
and that was on display today. It was on display. I mean, during the 16 campaign on Meet the Press, he was asked to denounce the Ku Klux Klan, and he said, "I've never heard." He said, "I don't know who anything about them."
But he said
I think he actually said, "I don't know David Duke." I think there's a difference.
He said, "I don't know David Duke, and I don't know what's going on about the Klan." I mean, it was something that.
But Joe, he has.
Does he seem like a well-read guy?
No, but he's released a plan that says that for his next administration, he's going to make the KKK and Antifa terrorist organizations.
Right. He's had 4 years to really denounce some of the hard, extreme people that happen to agree with him, or that will vote for him, and he's declined to do that, and it's just something he's I don't want to say incapable, because obviously he is capable, but it's something
But
he's
Biden's
willing to do.
a white supremacist has supported Biden. He disavowed his support, but he's gone full in on it. I forget what his name is. But
Yeah,
there
Richard
have
Spencer.
been white supremacists that are against Trump that are for Biden too, and he's not asked the same question.
You think this is going to turn into a civil war between red and blue someday?
No.
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 Okay.
I've fought in
They
wars.
make a
Americans
big
aren't
deal
war
out of it,
fighters.
like it's the end of the world. But I'm like, come on, people, we're better than that.
Okay, we only have, so we got about 6 more minutes. Laura, thank you very much for jumping on. And I want to go to Jacqueline. So if you can pull her in so she can ask her question, and if you're willing to show yourself, it would be so much better so they could actually see you. But
Hey
otherwise,
guys,
go ahead.
can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I just am curious, quick, because it did seem like there's a bit of confusion after the president's claims about mail-in voting, about how the system actually works. I'm wondering where you guys get your information from, and where you'll go to fact check the president, and what your sources, what your media habits are like. And if you think that you would have preferred some more fact checking from the moderator so as to help you parse through some of the more confusing facts and things you might have questioned from the candidates thrown around.
Michelle, you're nodding your head. Yes, explain.
Yes. They were talking about a lot of things, especially about the climate stuff. And, I'm not like all about it. So I would like fact checking from Wallace. That would have been really helpful and insightful, because of the bickering between the two candidates. It's hard to even, know what's going on.
Okay, Sarah, where do you get your news and information from?
I mean, I get it from a lot of times I get it from like the local news, like the newspaper. I read it online. I get a lot of it from there. And then just like after that debate, like listening to the moderators talk. That's where I started listening to information about fact checking because they were doing that on CBS. And I think they were brought up like 3 or 4 different items that were false that both candidates had said. So I would do more of that.
Let me try a couple more. Jeremy, how important is it to fact check during the debate, and where do you get your information from that you trust?
During the debate, you have to be careful because if you fact check one candidate more than the other, it's going to come across with a bias and it's going to piss off half the sides no matter what. If anything, you have something scrolling on the bottom, but I don't think the moderator's place is to fact check. They already have enough hard time trying to moderate, and Chris Wallace is one of the best there is. In terms of getting the news, I get it from Twitter. I try to follow as many sides as possible, and if everyone's talking about the same thing, then it's at least the quote's true, and then I'll dig into it. In regards to your question, Jacqueline, about mail-in voting, I personally have a history of working with the Board of Elections in North Carolina before I moved to Arizona, so I understand that aspect of how it works. And then here in Arizona, it's pretty easy if you sign up for the early voting list. So for fact checking what the president's saying, for me, more than anything, it's just frustrating that we have the leader trying to diminish any bit of truth when it comes to how mail-in voting, absentee voting by mail, whether you requested a ballot or not. It's frustrating to see the mistruths being spewed out there more than anything.
I'd like to see the things that were made facts or that weren't true. And I'd like to see like in a grid saying Fox News says this is true, NBC says this isn't true. I'd like to see who says what is true, because I have a feeling the media is half the problem of what is true and what is not true. It would be, I'd like to see everybody else attest to it going, yeah, you know what? We all agree this one was true. Because I have a feeling if it's one or the other, I'd say, let's just throw that out as nobody knows. I don't trust the media too much more than anybody else. So, because you can find, you can dig.
So I don't know how Wallace could have fact checked, because he had his hands full doing, he doing what he's already doing.
Yeah.
I think from a media standpoint, it's literally one of my biggest concerns right now in terms of most media outlets have picked a side, and so no longer, in the old days, Cronkite told us what happened and we figured out what we thought. Now the outlets are trying to tell us what we want to hear, what we want to think. So I use the Smart News app. I try to read as much as I can from both sides or from all sides to try to be informed. It's so hard to sort through the manipulation of our opinions.
That's the problem today. Is we don't have reliable sources anymore. We don't have the Reuters news service wire service that you could rely on, or even the New York Times, Associated Press. You can't believe them. You can't just dismiss them, but you can't believe them. And there's
it's a lot of click. We do it for the clicks and the views.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like in any media outlet you go to. You feel like it's all about the clicks and the views rather than what the truth is.
In that vein of believing what the president says is true or not, did you all believe that his response to whether or not he pays $750 a year in income tax was truthful? And does it matter to you?
He beat around the bush to say yes. At the end, he said, the rules were written the way they were, the code is the way it is, and I just followed it, and you're stupid if you don't. To me, that's an admission of guilt without saying I did it. So I personally believe he paid that. Is he wrong for doing it? No, he's exactly right. If you can follow the tax code to the way that he did and only managed to pay $750, whose fault is that? Or is it, in this sense, Joe Biden? He was the one in Congress that wrote the code. So that's something you need to look at there.
Well,
wrong, yes.
It doesn't. I'll say it doesn't really strike me as someone who wants to drain the swamp, and that's where I understand the argument that everybody wants to pay as little taxes as possible. But when you're paying your daughter however many thousands of dollars in consulting so you can write it off of taxes, that does not sound like drain the swamp to me. And that's where I started to think, maybe this does matter.
Okay, guys, we're going to end this, and you're going to give advice to the 2 candidates. The first piece of advice is going to be to Joe Biden. And again, I'm going to go through each one of you. A sentence. Joe Biden is sitting in front of you. What should he do in the next and the third debate? What should Joe Biden do for you in the next 2 debates to get your vote? And please don't tell me, be more specific. I really want an answer that I can work with. So Rob, you're an Iowa voter. Your state matters. What should Joe Biden do to get your vote?
Talk to me about where this budget, where should it stop? When is enough debt enough? Explain that to me.
That's good. Jennifer, what does Joe Biden need to do?
Answer the questions. I don't have a specific thing right now except to answer, be more specific in answering the question. Don't sway from exactly what the question was onto other things like like he tended to do. That's what I was trying to.
Travis, what do you want from Joe Biden?
Keep your answers short, Joe, and be a better version of yourself.
Cheryl, he's standing in front of you. What should Joe Biden do?
Keep looking straight at the American people and really do something for them.
Jerry, Joe Biden, give him advice.
Well, I would like to see him own up to the failures of Obama and Biden administration, admit what they were, where they were, and what he might change about them.
Nick, Joe Biden's in front of you. What does he do? What should he do?
Focus on the positive future that he can create.
Katie, Joe Biden's in front of you. What should he do?
Explain to me how he's not raising my taxes if he reverses the cuts.
Okay, that's pretty good. Last question. Donald Trump is standing in front of you. Kimberly, what should he do?
Lay out your plan.
Wow.
Jeremy, what should Donald Trump do to get your vote?
She said, she stole mine. Actually, tell me what your plan is. Don't tell me you have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what should Joe Biden do? I'm sorry. By the way, this is what happens when you do a focus group at midnight. One should never do a focus group either on medications or without sleep.
The best.
Mike, what should Donald Trump do?
Well, he should just quit the childlike bickering and act presidential. Can I answer about Biden too? Because I didn't get to.
I want to do Trump because I got some great Biden answers.
All right, go ahead. Well, no, it's fine.
Okay.
Quit bickering. There were times that he could have won a point and by just staying quiet. And instead he jumped in and interrupted and it went in the gutter.
Yeah.
Joe,
Stop making my wife mad. Good Lord, you make her go crazy.
We're going to top that. Joe from North Carolina, what should Donald Trump do to get your vote?
It's absolutely about appearing more presidential, being thoughtful and giving specifics on a vision for the economy and a vision for the country.
Luke, how would you answer that question?
Rather than interrupting and turning people off that way, you can be loud and boisterous, but tell us about your record and why it's better than the other guy.
Michelle, how do you answer that question for Donald Trump?
He needs to talk about what, where's the stimulus, the second stimulus that so many people need.
Sarah, what's your answer?
Answer the questions that are asked of you. Don't divert onto other topics that aren't relevant at the time.
Cheryl, Donald Trump standing right in front of you. What do you tell him?
See you later, buddy.
You're no longer undecided. You.
Oh no, I'm done. I'm done with that one.
Okay, and Jennifer, I'll do you, and then we'll call it a night.
Basically, be more specific with a plan. We want to hear a plan, not you got a plan. Shoot, can we be in on the plan?
Okay, guys, I want to thank you very much for doing this. I promised I'd have you out in an hour. I think it's very interesting. We had over 250 people. In fact, because we're going to cut this a little bit differently, let me just explain. You are the most important people and you come from the most important states. You all really matter in this. And this is why we talk to you. Because in the end, there's only 2.4% of Americans that are undecided and come from states that could potentially vote for either candidate. And that's why we gathered you. And I'm grateful for how candid you were. And I'm grateful for the fact that you took this so seriously. It's really important. Nobody else is listening to your voice. No networks, no no pundits. They want to hear the sound of their voice. It's why I didn't say anything about this until right now in the closing. I'm nervous for the country. And I looked around the room. I was in the debate hall, and I looked around, and people were shocked at what they were listening to. And my phone was blowing up by people who are actually in tears about how embarrassing this was.
Wow.
And how they were afraid that their kids were watching, and they were just shattered by how horrible the exchange was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you guys the last word. Anything you want to tell. Obviously, this has been running live by the LA Times. And there are people watching you right now. Anything you want to tell them, because you're precious and you're special. You represent 2.4% of America. Anything you want them to know about why you are where you are.
For me,
Mike, go ahead.
So we all want to be better than this. So please start acting like it.
Somebody else.
For me, got into politics when I was 6, when my dad first took me to the polls, and now I have a 5-year-old boy who I have to send out of the room to watch when the political commercials come on. I want that to stop.
Anyone
Make
else?
politics a 90-day cycle. And guys, if you get really frustrated, just turn the news off for a week. Life gets a lot better real fast. Sorry, news guys.
May I ask something? Mr. Luntz?
I'm with you too, because I'm afraid of this country. I've watched 60 years of debates.
Gary.
I was there when I watched the Lincoln.
Wow.
Nixon Kennedy debates. That was the first debates, and I came away with an answer after listening to all those debates. I don't see that anymore. All I see is a country and politics that they want to get back at the other side. We're like the third world country. We're like the Middle East. It's all about revenge.
That's
the first thing that Biden will do if he
Not
comes
about the
to office,
people, it's about the party.
change everything that Trump did, and vice versa. They change what the other party did. It's not about what's good for the country.
Yeah,
you're right.
Before we jump out of here, could I just affirm Kimberly? Because I heard a better answer from her tonight than I heard from either of the candidates all night, and just really appreciate you on here and sharing like she did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Agreed. Agree.
Hey, Kimberly, I think they'd vote for you for president.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Here's my thing. I think we're in trouble. I don't think no one wants to live in a society where everybody is scared. They're afraid of each other.
Right.
We're walking a tightrope, and we want somebody, in office who's going to calm the storm, because right now we're going through a thunderstorm. We're going through a hurricane, and no one has a plan. They say we have a plan, but there's nothing detailed about it. And I want to hear the details.
Yeah.
I want to see these presidents come down and work with our local officials and our activists and the people who are causing the ruckus. Because the only way you can resolve things is if you come and talk and you have a viable plan. Just don't give me a stump speech. I want to see action that's going to bring about an amicable resolve for everybody. And we're not perfect, but darn it, we can try to get there. So this is where I stand.
And
I think that our
gonna be the last
nation
word.
needs to
Actually,
heal.
Kimberly, you just ended it perfectly. And I'm sorry, Ruthie, but
That's
Kimberly,
okay, Frank.
that was beautiful. It was long, so I don't know if I can show it, but it was beautiful. Guys, I've kept you 10 minutes over. I want to thank you very much. Some of you I'll reach out to potentially to do the last debate. And the people who took the time to dial in tonight, I think they learned a lot about who you are, what you're about, what you're looking for, and how this election's going to go. So everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Be safe, be nice.
You.
Hey Frank, what about these questions over here in the Q&A? Do we just let it go? No, he quit. Okay. Bye guys. Nice meeting you all.
Yeah. Same here. Very interesting.
Heddle.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Just leave now. And when I say leave now, I mean like press the leave button. I'm not saying get the hell out.
Oh no, I was.
If the button said
I wanted to ask about these Q&A questions.